Mario & Luigi Partners in Time is ironically most remembered for being the most forgotten game in the Mario & Luigi RPG series. Alpha Dream skipped over it during their last-ditch effort to remake Mario & Luigi games to save their dying company, and it's the second worst-selling non-remake in the series. While I do remember it pretty fondly, it didn't stick in my replay rotation of favorites when I was younger the same way that other Mario RPGs did, so let's continue the Mario & Luigi hard mode series with the least loved game in the whole thing. Okay, well, besides Paper Jam, the developers didn't even love that game. As I've mentioned before, Bowser's Inside Story and Dream Team were the only games in the series to get built-in hard modes, but a member of my community, Nose64, put together a patch for Partners in Time that gives the exact same enemy stat increases as the challenge medal from Inside Story. Enemies get 1.5 times as much HP and defense while getting a massive 2.5 times increase to their attack. I decided to use this so that we can get a spicier Partners in Time experience that should compare to the other two hard modes that I've done. Even excluding built-in hard modes, I've always considered Dream Team to be the hardest game in the series personally, but a lot of people online seem to think that Partners in Time is the hardest by a significant margin. This idea seems to stem from the fact that the North American version, the highest-selling release of the game, gives most of the later bosses in the game much more health. Like when I say more HP, I mean that some of them have nearly double health in this version compared to the Japanese or European releases. The North American release was actually the first release of this game by about a month, so it's technically the original, while the other two versions rebalance it to be less tedious. Since I'm a stinky American, and this is the version that Nose64 made the patch for, we'll be playing hard mode on the version that already has the most ridiculous HP counts in the series. So let's set off on our quest to re-experience the forgotten second oldest child of the Mario & Luigi franchise and see if we can extract some hard mode goodness out of it along the way. This game pulls a Star Wars and immediately hits us with the really long time ago in space type beat and explains that an alien race, who we'll come to know as the Shroobs, is looking for a new home. They set their sights on Peach's castle and we suddenly get to play as Baby Mario in the past for a tutorial fight against Baby Bowser. Upon defeating him, the Shroobs pull up and invade all over the place. We immediately jump to the present and there's a bunch of big news about EGAD inventing a time machine. Gotta say, love the inclusion of EGAD in this game. He appeared as somewhat of a cameo in Superstar Saga, but in this game, he's actually relevant to the plot and serves as your obligatory hub world professor. Turns out, he sent Peach, Toadbert, and Toadico to the past in the time machine for a silly little visit, and it just so happens that they traveled to the exact moment that the Shroobs were attacking. Oops. So yeah, this game immediately introduces a massive paradox and continuity issue, and I regret to inform you that that's kinda just how the game is. Mario and Luigi travel to the past to help fight the Shroobs, but if they didn't help, then the Shroobs would have won and prevented the Mario Bros from ever growing up, so that means the future they traveled from shouldn't even exist. Yeah, this is inevitably the fate of all time travel stories. I overall respect this game for not getting too lost in the logical side of time travel because it's honestly pretty boring in terms of storytelling, but the part that I take more issue with is the fact that none of the present-day characters remember the Shroob invasion. Mario's exact age has always been kind of a mystery, but Miyamoto said once in an interview that Mario was 24 years old, but some people think this is a misinterpretation and he was actually talking about the age of the franchise. But regardless, this could mean that the Shroob invasion was literally only 20 years before the present time that we see. The idea that an entire alien civilization that devastated the kingdom and almost wiped out their civilization for good was completely forgotten about in just a couple decades is kind of stupid, and it doesn't get much better even if it was like 30 or 40 years ago. EGAD is literally an adult during the time that the Shroobs invade, and he conveniently manages to never see them, hear about them, or learn about them. Because of all this, Partners in Time definitely ends up feeling more like an alternate timeline or alternate universe story rather than being a single timeline where you travel between past and present. You'll definitely see that perspective as we talk about the gameplay, which I should probably start doing instead of rambling about paradoxes and time travel. The thing is, in true Mario and Luigi fashion, Partners in Time spends the first couple hours getting you acquainted with the world and, well, giving you tutorials. The T word comes up a lot in these videos, my god. god. After Mario fights off the junior Shrooboid that came back in the time machine, Luigi falls into a time hole and gets himself and Mario stranded near Holly Jolly Village in the past. Egad sends another one of his inventions in after us. Stuffwell. This talking suitcase acts as our guide companion character, the first of his kind for this series. Honestly, I never really liked Stuffwell that much because he's robotic and doesn't really have much personality, but he does have a speech quirk where he makes up compound words and some of them are actually pretty funny. I definitely appreciate these a lot more now that I've grown up. After Stuffwell teaches us how to walk and jump, because clearly we would have never figured that out on our own, we head into the actual town and find that it's completely ransacked and deserted. Except for Santa Claus, of course. He fittingly tries to escape through the chimney and gets stuck, but Mario and Luigi free him and we learn why we never see Christmas in the Mario universe. They abduct him and ultimately crush him into oil. That is not an exaggeration. You'll see in a second. The Shroobs confront Mario and Luigi and completely roll them. Yeah, the bros are dead. This has nothing to do with hard mode, this is just a scripted loss, by the way. In the sky above, the Koopa Cruiser is flying by with babies Bowser, Mario, Luigi, and Peach, as well as a young Toadsworth and some Koopa pilots. Oh yeah, Toadsworth is also an adult here and is another character that should absolutely remember this alien invasion. They spot the knocked out adults down below and Baby Peach just sings like an angel and compels Baby Bowser to help them out. Baby Mario and Baby Luigi come down to the ground and have to fight a couple of the Shroobs that survived the cannonball. Without the saucer to hit them with an instant death laser, the babies actually stand a much better chance against the Shroobs. This is also where what might just be the most unpopular mechanic in the game gets introduced. Yes, this game actually pioneered the sticker-like genre by making all of your special attacks into consumable items. Unlike every other game in the Mario and Luigi series, there's no BP or SP stat to be found, so money and item management are the key to maintaining your ability to use special moves. Or at least they would be if the game wasn't incredibly generous with bros items. You can basically get through the whole game without buying any of them since they just get dumped on you from item blocks everywhere. However, hard mode actually sorta remedies this, at least by making it so you need to use more bros items and thus need to manage the resource much better. The item and coin economy was actually a pretty fun part of this run, which has otherwise never been true about Partners in Time. The fact that there's still a very standard XP system and gear equip system makes this much less of an issue than people make it out to be. Battles are still worth doing so your character's stats grow and you can still use standard attacks without consuming items. A lot of people seem to think this choice was made because managing SP stats on 4 characters would be overwhelming, and like, are we serious about that? JRPGs before, during, and since that time period generally have way more characters with multiple resource stats to manage and it works totally fine. The Mario and Luigi series itself went on to have 2 games with 3 characters to manage stats for, so I would be shocked if this was actually the reason. It's worth keeping in mind that this game had to build off Superstar Saga, which used bros moves based on the overworld abilities they learned throughout the story. Those were a really cool implementation, but it wouldn't have worked as seamlessly between a pair of babies and a pair of adults. Anyways, the first bros item we get is the green shell, which went on to be a staple of the series. It's honestly pretty solid for the early game, even though we can only deal 1 damage per hit. You get up to 16 hits before the shell despawns, and 16 damage ain't too bad when our jumps are barely cracking 4. This bros item isn't that important in the first dungeon though, since it's just Baby Bowser's castle with a bunch of tutorial-ass enemies. There isn't even a boss at the end of this, but the adults and babies officially join forces and set us up for the whole rest of the game. Upon reaching the end of Baby Bowser's castle, we collect the first piece of the Cobalt Star. The Cobalt Star was apparently the power source for the time machine, and it got broken up at some point after Peach traveled to the past. It's this game's main MacGuffin because it's always gotta be some damn star. Also during this dungeon, we decided how to allocate our bonus level up stats for the adults and the babies. I did stash and horn only in Bowser's Inside Story to make the game harder and funnier by spamming lucky hits at the expense of lower overall damage, and in this game we decided to do stash only again for the adults, but POW only for the babies. The goal was to try to get the babies to deal more damage than the adults, also known as Operation Buff Babies. After clearing Baby Bowser's castle, we reach a time hole that shoots us back into the present into Peach's castle? Wait, why doesn't this go to present-day Bowser's castle? Yeah, so another pretty lame thing this game does with time travel is that it just doesn't have a proper world for the present. You only get access to Peach's castle and the connected sewers in the present and nothing else. This really limits any of the fun exploration that could be gained by exploring an area in the past and present and comparing what's different. Oh, but Bringle, it was a DS game. They were just super limited by... No. You could play Chrono Trigger on the DS. No excuses. At the risk of getting too negative, let's jump into the next area, the Toadwood Forest, where we will apparently be finding another piece of the Cobalt Star. This area brings it back around and establishes a really strong and foreboding vibe with the Shroobs. The Shroobs are using this forest and its trees to drain the life force of toads and process their energy in the Vim Factory, which is the place containing the next Cobalt Shard. Yes, all of these wooden toads that you see are drained dead husks. Okay, so the game sucks at time travel, but it's dark and fucked up. I'm listening. The most notable toad we encounter here is Toadiko, one of the toads that traveled to the past with Princess Peach. She reveals all that information that I just told you about the Shroobs draining toads to fuel their saucers, and she tries to tell us something very important before being reverted to her primal form by a Shroob. Fuck you, turns you into a mushroom. The enemies in this area aren't too threatening, although the Piranha Plant from Smash Ultimate is a little bit scary. You mostly fight these guys in baby-only zones, and with the baby's horrible early game stats, they get one-tapped by him. His timings aren't very hard, but this would be pretty bad if they were, I guess. The overworld design in this game is decent, but honestly, it feels like a downgrade compared to Superstar Saga. The split-up puzzles with the adults and babies have their moments, but as you'll see throughout the run, there are a lot of segments that are kind of contrived and lame. One of the recurring design choices are these big pipe things where the babies can be thrown into little underground rooms, and these will contain enemies, items, or coins. This game loves to do this thing where you send 100 coins up to the adults, and this mechanic never evolves or changes throughout the entire game. Once we make it to the actual Vim Factory, the game hits us with one of the better split-up sections. Mario and Luigi are immediately snorted by a giant nose, and the babies get attacked by a couple hammer bros that talk in Leet speak. I'm a stupid fucking zoomer that isn't old enough to remember Leet speak in its prime, but I do appreciate this joke a lot more now than I did when I played this game as a kid. These hammer bros are the first non-tutorial boss in the game and are a great place to use the second bros item that we unlocked in Toadwood Forest, the Bro Flower. This is just a fire flower, and this is another attack that became a staple of the Mario and Luigi series. The damage from this thing is actually quite good, dealing a solid chunk of each Hammer Bros health per use. The real kicker though is that burn chance. They outspeed me by a fair bit and get to attack first, but afterwards I managed to burn each of them. In the earlier Mario and Luigi games, pretty much every status effect caused enemies to be stunned, and burn is no exception. Burn will damage them each turn and prevent them from attacking until a couple turns have passed. I was able to kill one of the bros before he even got another attack, and the other one got a single additional attack. He sniped Baby Mario down because I thought this tell meant he would throw the hammer above Baby Mario, but I was totally wrong. And after a quick one-up, I dealt the last 11 damage needed to kill him. So yeah, our first boss can literally just be stun-locked. So much for hard mode. The next segment is definitely a little scary since we gotta go through the first area of the Vim Factory as just the babies to rescue the adults from the giant nose. The Hammer Bros, thankful that they're no longer edgy, give the babies hammers to use in the overworld and battle. This makes most of the rescue section pretty free since these are just tutorial enemies, although chat seemed really worried that I was gonna soft lock my game here. Apparently if you release X right before the Hammer Bros tell you to, you can get stuck in an infinite idle loop. This is pretty precise and I've never done it by accident before, so I didn't run into any issues. Yeah, I don't know why, but chat really blew this one out of proportion. I avoided as many enemies as I could and linked back up with the adult bros to head further into the factory. Oh yeah, it's worth mentioning that only the babies get to use hammers in this game. The adults never get hammers and can only use hammer attacks and counters when they have the babies present. In the second area, there are a couple new enemies, Dr. Shroobs and Lakitu-FOs for some reason. There isn't anything obviously Shroobified about them, so maybe they're just siding with the winning team. The Dr. Shroobs in particular are a fun enemy. They can attack with a ray gun like normal Shroobs, but they can also summon and use two different flavors of mushroom. The red one makes them big and able to do a stronger attack, while the gray mushroom makes them mini for a weaker attack. Neither of these enemies are particularly threatening, but they have a similar problem to all of the other early game enemies and the other hard mode runs that I've done. They tanky. They aren't quite as tanky as some of those early enemies in Inside Story, but here it's made worse by the consumable bros items. I either have to backtrack and restock before the boss, or try to conserve them as much as as possible. I opted for the latter because backtracking to Peach's castle is honestly awful in this game due to the lack of fast travel. Overall, the Vim Factory is a very short area which kind of becomes a theme in this game, and I was able to reach the chapter boss in less than 40 minutes. Swiggler is something of a biological weapon, and its primary purpose is to drink the toad Vim juice and load it into Shroob saucers with its butt. He is chugging liquid Santa Claus and shitting it into his friends that seem to enjoy it a little too much. Baby Mario spills the Santa juice, which makes Swiggler mad and starts a fight. During the fight, he's joined by 2 Dr. Shroobs that will respawn infinitely. These guys are actually the key to Swiggler's weakness. Hitting a Dr. Shroob will cause them to drop their mushroom into Swiggler's drink. Swiggler drinks from this cup often, and once it drinks the tainted juice, it turns green and gets stunned for a couple turns. During this break, its defense stat drops to nearly 1/3 of normal, letting you lay into it with your strongest bros items. Right before this fight, you're given the first cannonballers in the game, which are a solid early game single target attack. They're a little less solid with scaled up stats though, less than 50 damage per hit. Beyond that, his attacks are very simple and easy to dodge. He can spit a stinky poison cloud at you that you have to hammer twice to dissipate, and he can fuel a couple saucers that shoot laser beams at you that are very lenient to jump over. While he's in his default angry form, he will counter with a shockwave attack anytime you damage him, so to do this fight properly, you definitely want to avoid hitting him until he's greened out. Overall, first boss is first boss and didn't cause any problems. Immediately after killing Swiggler, we see this abomination. I don't even want to put this on my screen, fuck. I don't want to look at it, let alone share it on stream. Here's Broob. It's me if I was a Shroob. Ugh. Yeah, okay, that's enough of that already. Keep him, get custody. No, I don't want him. His mother can have him. And then we can obtain the second Cobalt Star Shard. Baby Bowser then runs in like a blue hedgehog of sorts and makes the bros so dizzy that they drop both Cobalt Shards. Don't you just love when the story is pushed forward by cartoon slapstick that the characters shouldn't be falling for? Baby Bowser and Kamek escape with both shards, and upon returning to Egad, we're pointed towards a new time hole that leads to where Baby Bowser retreated to. Visiting the Toadsworths, who are babysitting Baby Peach, is mandatory at this point because they teach the adults how to use the spin jump. This lets them cross larger gaps than previously thought to be possible. We can also buy a couple new bros items at this stage, the Smash Egg and the Ice Flower. One of these items is one of the best bros attacks in the entire series, and the other is the Smash Egg. We'll try them out momentarily in the next area, which just so happens to be Yoshi's Island. This environment is nice, the music is actually fantastic, and it's once again hard to get past the stench of disappointment that you don't get to explore this area in the present. Upon reaching Yoshi Village, you very quickly realize that something is off. There's nobody to be found, there's a bunch of weird footprints in the ground, and there's a gigantic purple eggshell in the top corner that something hatched out of. After poking around a bit, the bros find a bunch of Yoshis hiding in an attic, and holy shit, what is that? This is a Shroob version of Yoshi, and his name is fucking Yoob. It's not clever at all, and yet I kinda love it. Yoob scared me pretty bad when I was a kid, and he's a super solid and interesting threat for this area. The Yoshis flee upon Yoob's arrival, but immediately get eaten by him. We also meet Kylie Koopa here, but Yoob doesn't like the taste of her, so she's spared from Yoob's inside story. She doesn't do much right now, but she'll be back later, don't worry. So after Yoob has lunch, he leaves and we're free to head deeper into the island to find Baby Bowser. Let's peep those new bros attacks now. Ice Flower isn't the highest damaging attack in the game by any means, but the reason it's one of the best bros moves in the series is the fact that it can debuff your enemy's attack, defense, and even speed. Most Shroob enemies and even bosses are weak to ice, so the damage is decent on top of those incredibly strong debuffs. Also, another fun fact, this was the first Mario game to ever feature an Ice Flower of any kind, since Partners in Time came out 2 years before Mario Galaxy. And then there's the Smash Egg. Experiencing this bros attack again after all these years has made me want to make a ranking video for every bros attack in the series just so I can put Smash Egg in F tier. This attack sucks. It's kind of like Mighty Meteor from Inside Story if it had no aura, no bitches, and was terrible. You kick the egg back and forth at random enemies, and after several hits it will break and reward you with an item. Apparently you can get the Simple badge very rarely from the Smash Egg, but there's another place you can get this badge in the game so you don't have to suffer through this attack. The damage on it is pretty bad, but there's actually a way to make it stronger if you have all 4 bros present. You can jump with the babies to boost the egg and send it to the the opposite bro, and doing this twice will allow each egg hit to reach its full potential. Unfortunately, the damage still kinda sucks, and this makes the attack like 4 times more tedious to use. The overall map exploration stuff is pretty alright on Yoshi's Island, but it's also a lot shorter than I remember. There's a couple sections where you have to send the babies up into the clouds to hit switches and stuff, and there are quite a few enemies in those areas. Overall, I did my best to avoid fights since the babies are very weak to dying, and I was correct to do this because the one time I didn't avoid a fight, I missed 2 guards and the babies died. Since they're separate from the adults, this counts as a game over. So let's introduce everybody's favorite, the death counter. If my chat is to be believed, we're gonna be working this thing into the ground because people did not let up on telling me how much harder Partners in Time is compared to every other Mario RPG. I made sure to play more carefully for the rest of this zone, but I learned something horrible about the next boss. What a lemon, and this film ain't cheap neither. Oh yeah, Kylie Koopa. Okay guys, I'm thinking, and I'm not sure, Kamek might have around 675 HP. And I'm not certain, though. We'll have to find out when we get there. I wonder how much HP Kamek has. I want to say it was somewhere around like 400, yeah. This is very important. Do not ever forget this. So let's take on this Goliath with a massive 675 HP. His attacks aren't terribly hard to dodge. He mainly likes to fire spike balls at you that you have to hammer away, but occasionally he'll swap them with mushrooms which heal you as long as you don't hit them back. His other attack is a sweeping fireball that for some reason I tried to jump really late against multiple times. During this fight, Kamek will often create 4 clones of himself that aim to waste your time while you try to find the real one, but there's a really silly detail here that may or may not have been intentional. If you look closely, the real Kamek hovers slightly out of sync with the clones, and now you can never unsee it. This means you don't need to bother using fire flowers or ice flowers to reveal him and can just go straight for the cannonballer. You can also dox the location of the real one by applying debuffs with the ice flower, which will only display on the real Kamek. His gimmick doesn't gimmick very hard, but at least he has 675 HP. At the end of the fight, something very interesting happened. What's what? Oh, wait a minute, why is he just sitting there? Huh? Huh? All the clones are out of sync now. What? So is he dead from a counterattack? I don't know what exactly happened here. Let me use an ice flower. Is that a clone or a real one? All of those were clones. The real one died. So here's what my chat and I think happened here. Kamek's clones normally just die when the real Kamek is killed, but perhaps the hard mode health increase rounded their 1 HP up to 2 HP and let them live the automated attack thingy that happens. Regardless, attacking the clones destroyed them and the game proceeded normally. Or at least as normal as you could possibly consider this next segment. Baby Bowser, now cornered, decides to eat the Cobalt Star Shards to prevent you from getting them. Come to think of it, Bowser eating the Star Cure in Inside Story is probably a reference to this moment. As the bros try to extract the shards from Baby Bowser, Yoob starts to climb up the side of the mountain. He is literally the size of the mountain now, and he eats the bros and Baby Bowser. It's now our turn to experience Yoob's Inside Story. This section is honestly pretty cool despite how strange it is. You gotta round up a bunch of the Yoshis from earlier to make progress, and my favorite detail is that using the Baby Drill ability causes Yoob visible pain on the top screen. There's 2 main enemies in this area. Dry Bones, because Yoob digested some Koopas, I guess, and RC Shroobers. The Dry Bones throw bones at you like you would expect, and the RC Shroobers will command little Shroob RC vehicles to attack you. The worst part about the RC Shroobers, though, is that they can use their little guys in the overworld and are very good at hitting you from the back. This causes you to start battle in the trip status, and then they can get free kills on you since hard mode buffs them to the point where they one-tap you. Just so cool, man. Fortunately, they can only hit one bro at a time, so 1-ups make up for them basically cheating. This segment, like every segment so far, is way shorter than you probably remember it being when you were a kid. Apparently, Yoob is actually just a giant factory meant to create more Yoobs, and I'm not exactly sure how this worked before they made him into Big Yoob. I cruised through the rest of the dungeon and met up with Toadbert right before the end. He was the other Toad that traveled in the time machine with Peach, except he lost his memories along the way and has no recollection of what happened. All he has to his name is a sketch that he made before his memories were lost, depicting Princess Peach using the Cobalt Cobalt Star on Princess Shroob. This was right before Princess Shroob broke and scattered the Cobalt Star. Gotta say, Toadbert might just be one of the worst artists in the entire Mario canon. He's supposed to be a scholar among his kind, like he literally goes on to serve on Peach's board of advisors in the next game, and in this one he draws like an 8-year-old. In fairness though, who am I to criticize him? I've barely ever drawn anything in my life. I'm awful. You know what, fuck it, let's see if I can do any better than Toadbert.
Okay, let's see what I can do. I was gonna maybe use a reference for this, but Toadbert was just drawing it from memory. So let's see, we got Peach right here, so we need to start with like her hair, and it's like the back of Peach. So she's got her crown. Oh wait, but Toadbert doesn't have an undo button. Wait, I'm already cheating. Okay, no more undos for the rest of it. Or my hands might be worse than Toadbert's. See, the beautiful thing about the star is I think I can actually just draw it like this because the Cobalt Star is supposed to be split up anyway. That's not quite how it goes. So there's that part. Now the harder part is probably the Shroob Princess. And then another Lego hand. I don't remember if she has a neck. I don't know if you could like tell that from her sprite or not. And then here, to add to the authenticity, let me like thicken my brush. Hold on, how do I use paint? So then we'll add some coffee stain there. And probably some poop right here as well. Okay, there we go. I spent like 3 minutes on this. How did I do? Rate me versus Toadbert in the comments, I guess. Okay, you know what? I think mine is slightly better than Toadbert's. Not by much though.
Right after meeting Toadbert, we fight the boss of this area, an evil Shroob egg thing called Sunnyside. This boss is pretty resistant to dying in his default form, and he summons groups of 5 Shroob eggs pretty often. Breaking an egg will release a Yoshi, and 5 Yoshis can push a rock into the boss, knocking him over and lowering his defense by a lot. With hard mode stats, these eggs are very durable though, and it doesn't help that Sunnyside's main attack is to pick up the eggs and throw them at you. This is very easy to dodge, but each thrown egg despawns even if you've already dealt damage to it. Fortunately, he will always choose between pulling from the top or bottom of the egg stack, so you can just attack the furthest one from where he's throwing to get a little bit of extra time to damage the eggs. Once he's knocked over, he gets a different moveset. They really did not know what to do with this guy because his attacks involve summoning either a rope or a chain from the ceiling and pulling on it to attack one of the bros. The rope will turn the lights out and summon a boo which you can hammer away, and the chain will temporarily tear a hole in the floor below one of the bros? Really? That's what y'all cooked up for the egg monster's attacks? This fight is pretty tanky even in normal mode, but hard mode makes this one of the longest bosses in the entire game. Honestly though, I've never really understood the boss fight length complaints people have with this game. Long boss fights are generally pretty fun in RPGs, and the fights aren't really longer than any other game in the series as long as you're actually using your bros attacks instead of being stingy with them. Some of the later fights do get pretty long with the extra North American version health, but your damage is still quite high in vanilla, so they're not like insane or anything. After nearly 20 hard mode minutes, I brought Sunnyside down. After this fight, we escape through Yoob's asshole and get shat back down to Yoshi's island. You might think that I'm trying to be funny or crass here, but that is definitely his butt that we're dropping out of. So, how exactly are we gonna stop this giant alien Yoshi from going on a Godzilla-style rampage across the Mushroom Kingdom? Well, apparently we already did. Defeating Sunnyside and removing the eggs that the Yoshis were trapped in just shuts down Yoob entirely. He closes his eyes and goes still forever. I can mostly forgive this since it's obviously a way to let Yoob's interior stay accessible so you can go back and get missed collectibles, but it would have been cool if we actually did something directly inside of him to defeat him instead of him kind of just dying. Also, Baby Bowser was in one of the eggs and we're able to retrieve the 2 Cobalt Star Shards that he ate earlier. Returning to Peach's castle, Egad doesn't really have much else to add at this stage other than, keep looking for those shards, you youngins. So, let's go see the Toadsworths in the courtyard. There's no way they'll be ballin'. Okay, well even if the Toadsworths are ballin', there's no way that Mario and Luigi will also be ballin'. Call me an environmentalist the way that I be recycling this joke in all of these videos. The Bros Ball is just a glorified sprint ability, and we can use it to ascend this timed staircase on the second floor of Peach's castle to get to the next time hole. We can also use it to access the sewers in the present, which is the only non-Peach's castle place we can go in the present day in this game. Again, missed opportunity, etc, etc. In here we find probably the best Easter egg or reference or whatever you want to call it in this whole game. The goat. You're able to drill into this sewer pipe with the babies and find Fawful's Beanin' Badge, where you trade beans for rare badges. The first time you speak to him, he has this really menacing and unhinged rant about how much he fucking hates Mario and Luigi because of what they did to him in Superstar Saga, and it's so cool knowing that he actually did act on all of this stuff in the next game. This cameo still would have been cool if he never appeared again, but the fact that he gets main villain status in the next game just makes this appearance so cool. On to the next time hole now, we get sent to Gritzy Desert, which has one of my favorite desert music themes in the entire Mario franchise. This area is home to the Koopaseum, and we link up with Kylie Koopa again, who tells us that the Shroobs are apparently bringing Princess Peach here. So, objective, get in the big ass building. There's a couple big dry bone statues that have blocks next to them that activate lasers, but each pair needs to be activated at the same time for them to actually work. This means we have to split up the adults and the babies, and because of this, I avoided as many fights as I could. I don't want that smoke. That made this segment even shorter than it probably should be. Activating both pairs of lasers unfreezes a block that lets you enter the Koopaseum. Kylie follows us in and immediately gets kidnapped by the Shroobs when we look away. The Shroobs do in fact have Princess Peach on stage, but the bros watch the Shroobs feed her to Peter. The following Koopaseum section is a small demo for the Bros Ball ability, and then the bros accidentally end up in the middle of the stage next to Princess Shroob. Her guards try to subdue us, but Mario, Luigi, and the babies are genuinely them. Okay, well Mario and the babies are at least. Princess Shroob calls in the Shrooboid Brat, who's a chubby little Shroob with a lollipop. This is the first boss in the game to start having more health in the US version than other versions, and the difference only gets bigger from here. 1650 HP in hard mode is a massive jump from Sunnyside, but at least we don't have to do any bullshit to stun this guy. He is simply weak to dying right from the start. There's a couple new bros attacks at our disposal now as well. The trampoline and the pocket chomp. The trampoline launches all four bros into the sky, and you have to press the correct button for whichever bro is falling down and landing on the enemy. This can get pretty tricky as it gets faster, since you have to teleport the colors and the ages of the bros. The pocket chomp summons a chain chomp that chases you back and forth across the enemies. You have to react to which bro is being chased for each jump, and the babies will randomly swap between being on top of the chomp or on the end of the chain. Pressing the button for the baby at the end of the chain will do a little extra damage on each pass, but pressing the wrong baby button will hammer the chomp's head, causing it to speed up. Pressing the adult jump button late will still cause a jump to land, but it will slow you down. Both the trampoline and pocket chomp are technically infinite attacks. Trampoline will go until you miss a single jump input, and pocket chomp will go until the chain chomp catches up with you. This makes both of them pretty fun and satisfying to do really well at, but also makes them pretty overpowered. My damage sucks because of the increased hard mode defense, but I was finally managing to get over 100 damage from a single action. Shrooboid Brat has some insanely cool concepts for attacks, but the execution leaves a little bit to be desired. Before taking any action, he'll appeal to the crowd and they'll tell him who to attack by holding up signs for Mario or Luigi. He can attack by throwing his lollipop, eating fire flowers and spitting fireballs, or by eating and spitting mushrooms at you. Later in the fight, the Shroobs will swap the M's and L's on the cards, but the Shrooboid Brat will continue to pick based on the color of the card. The reason I say the execution leaves a bit to be desired is the fact that it doesn't really matter who he targets. His attacks are all spaced out enough that you can just jump or hammer with both bros at the same time and not even worry about who he's targeting. This really reduces the threat level, so my focus was definitely more on just practicing and shaking off the rust from not touching these bros attacks for a whole decade. Eventually, I chewed through his health and Shrooboid Brat was no more. Immediately following the fight, Princess Shroob summons more Shroobs to break the floor and plummet us into this dark underground cave area. The first thing we find down here is a pretty solid shop. Up to this point, I've been using whatever gear I've scavenged up, but here we can buy muscle slacks for the adults and thrilling pants for the babies. These are glass cannon armor pieces that provide no defense increase whatsoever, but provide a huge attack increase. I love this type of gear in normal playthroughs, and they're honestly even better in hard mode. Stuff would nearly one-shot me, or just actually one-shot me, even if I did have defense, so why not just spec entirely into attack? I couldn't afford a second pair of muscle slacks for Luigi, so I kept some proper armor on him so he could act as our tank. Yes, a tank that dies in 2 hits instead of 1. Bravo. 2 out of 3 enemies in this area are recolors of enemies from Baby Bowser's castle but with faster attacks, and the other enemy is actually kind of an interesting one. The Sniffero is a Sniffit in a sarcophagus, and its attacks aren't terribly threatening. The really cool thing about them that I actually didn't know before this playthrough is the fact that you can use the fire flower to burn away the sarcophagus entirely, leaving just the Sniffit inside to fend for itself. This makes it easier to fight and is just a fun little detail. For some reason though, this didn't work against every Sniffero. It seems like ones in this enemy loadout specifically were immune to the fire flower, while other enemy loadouts worked just fine. Weird game. We catch up with Kylie Koopa again down here, and the Shroobs decide to feed her to Petey Piranha as well. The only real thing of note that happened during the rest of the exploration here was Bruboid Brat joining our lovely cast of Shroob Bringles. I would just like to point out that all of this suffering you've endured looking at these abominations is courtesy of Mr. Jar Beefus.
Jar Beefinite.
Eventually, after making our way through the caves, we find Petey's lair. A very goofy cutscene plays, and then we get to fight Peter himself. This fight definitely steps things up from Shrooboid Brat. Petey has 2 phases that he can swap between, one where he's flying and one where he's submerged in the sand. While flying, he will attack by flying to the top screen, dive bombing the floor, and launching rocks at each bro. The rocks are staggered to Mario or Luigi first, depending on which direction Petey is facing as he falls, and you actually have to pay attention instead of just jumping with both because they happen in quick succession. He can also spin as he falls, causing the rocks to be launched at each bro in sync. The flying phase is when you want to unleash your strongest bro's attacks, since his grounded phase makes him a spiky enemy, preventing you from using trampoline or pocket chomp. And since I can't use cannonball or either during this phase, Smash Egg is unfortunately one of the better damaging options. Fuck Smash Egg.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Petey has 2 attacks while he's grounded. One of them is this laughably easy one where he digs into the ground and starts sucking the sand towards him. All you gotta do is spam jump on each bro and you will be absolutely fine. This other attack is kinda mean. You have to hit this little piranha ball back and forth until it detaches, but the first hit can catch you off guard because it just instantly flies towards you with no foreplay. This is probably less of an issue if you're paying attention to the game and not also trying to read a stream chat, but it definitely caught me off guard a couple times. Petey is the first boss in the game that starts attacking multiple times once he gets low on health, and this will definitely add some pressure once we get to bosses that have threatening attacks. Until then, we can destroy Petey just fine. And after destroying Petey, Kylie Koopa and a random 3rd Cobalt Star Shard are released from his tummy. Kylie informs us that Peach was in there with her, but got spat out along the way at some point. Kylie also managed to obtain this gigantic key that's literally bigger than her while she was kidnapped by the Shroobs. This is a surprise Mousecatool that will help us later. Upon proceeding to the next room, the bros find Princess Peach, except she's got a little friend stuck on her face preventing her from talking. The team decides to take her back to the present to figure out what to do. At this point, a lot of the characters start to talk as if the journey is over since Peach is rescued, but there is still the small matter of the evil alien invasion happening in the past. The Toadsworths now teach us new variants of our spin jump and bros ball. We can spin the babies into their own even higher spin jump, and we can also mash them into fucking pancakes. Shortly after this, Adult Bowser shows up and kidnaps Peach. Partners in Time fortunately didn't forget about Adult Bowser despite forgetting about Adult Bowser's castle and every other present-day location. I'm not gonna stop being butthurt about that. While escaping with Peach, Bowser falls into a time hole, so we gotta chase him into the past. Okay, just a warning, I'm about to unleash one of the biggest nitpicks I have with the game so far, and I would say that I've definitely been pretty nitpicky against what is otherwise a pretty solid, if slightly unpolished game. To get to the next time hole, you need to launch the babies with the new spin ability. The adults aren't able to get up here, so what are we supposed to do? Well, obviously you're just supposed to jump in the time hole as the babies because this will magically spawn the adults through as well. I think this type of game design really undermines the point of split up puzzles between the adults and babies where you have to make a path for each of them. I feel like the game really promised this sort of thing earlier, but there are way too many times where the solution to a puzzle is to just get across with one set of bros and then teleport the others to them. It's just kind of boring and uncreative from a game that is otherwise bubbling with ridiculous and silly ideas. Thwomp Volcano itself is kind of neat at least. The uses of the new abilities are pretty fun, and there's a couple fun enemies here. The Thwacks have neat little attack patterns and apparently have an ult where they all just kill themselves and attack both bros at the same time. I usually just kill them fast enough that this doesn't happen, but that's a lot harder in hard mode. There's a recolor of the coconut guys from Yoshi's Island that I glossed over because I skipped most of them then and went on to skip most of them here, and there's Tanuki Goombas. These are all solid XP grinding enemies since they're pretty easy, but honestly I haven't been too underleveled because I've still been fighting plenty of enemies along the way. Once we reach the top of the mountain, we find Peach's crown sitting on the ground, implying that she and Bowser tumbled into the volcano. The volcano then goes boom. The bros are 10 feet away from a massive pillar of lava and are just fine, subtly implying that they have super heat resistance, and now suddenly we have to solve a volcanic eruption. In the following area, the danger music continues to play, but there are normal enemies that still play the normal-ass cheerful battle theme. After making our way down the other side of the summit, we find a suspiciously EGAD-shaped building. It turns out this bigger EGAD ate the littler EGAD, who's researching Thwomp Volcano in his youth. Or maybe his middle age, I guess? If this game really doesn't take place that far in the past, then he's definitely not like super young here. He's so absorbed in his research that he doesn't notice or feel the volcanic eruption, but us arriving brings the destruction with us. Putting out his lab fire gives him an idea on how to solve the slightly bigger fire problem that we have. He dreams up a water-spewing machine that future EGAD then remembers and builds. This is, again, a massive paradox because young EGAD would have to survive this eruption to be able to exist in the future to save himself, but even ignoring that side of things, this is like the only time in the game they really do anything with the idea of a character being connected between the past and present. That's why this game feels like more of an alternate timeline than a time travel thing. The funniest part of this to me is that at no point does present EGAD acknowledge the volcanic eruption. He's just like, yo, I had a great idea, so I made this fucking hose thing. He literally sends this giant stream of water through the time hole as a sample. This guy, after the volcano is extinguished, younger EGAD proclaims that he's moving to Boo Woods to research ghosts. Yeah, goated video game foreshadowing. But also, once again, he moves across the kingdom during the Shroob invasion and never notices or remembers the Shroobs. Returning to the top of the volcano, we find Mr. and Mrs. Thwomp, who are very upset that the volcano is no longer erupting. Mrs. Thwomp gets mad at us for making her husband sad, and she challenges us to a fight. This boss is somewhat of a joke, but she's definitely not a total pushover. She has two phases, the first one where she's big and a second one where she splits into 4 copies. The large phase is just a shield while the real damage is done in the small phase. Interestingly, Mrs. Thwomp is the only boss that actually has less health in the North American version than the other releases. Her first tank phase has 80 more health in those later releases, but the second phase is the same between all versions. Her attacks in the first phase can be a little tricky to initially react to, but aren't hard once you dial in your timings. The second phase attack is an absolute joke. She and her copies just land in front of you and give you a ton of time to hammer them away. That plus the fact that we unlock copy flowers at this point in the game makes this fight pretty easy. The copy flower is the greatest bros attack in the game and is one of the most overpowered in the entire series. It's functionally just a faster version of trampoline, including the fact that it's technically infinite. It's easier to deal more damage with copy flower compared to trampoline, and it goes by so much faster, which are both lovely upgrades. Mrs. Thwomp's clones are all slightly incorrect, so you can easily tell which one is the real one. Copy flower is goated for scenarios like this because it's one of few successive target attacks rather than being a random target attack. It will target a single enemy until they die, and then it will move on to another enemy. Okay, so like Mrs. Thwomp isn't a joke boss, but she was kind of a joke. Despite the fact that we just kicked his wife's ass, Mr. Thwomp helps us enter the volcano so we can continue looking for Peach. Peach and Bowser should absolutely be dead now, by the way, since they were in the volcano when it erupted. Since this is a kid's game, that isn't actually the case, and we get to see this silly cutscene of baby Bowser pulling up on adult Bowser at the bottom of the volcano. Adult Bowser doesn't seem to even realize that he's in the past, so he just thinks that baby Bowser is some little impersonator or something. This is one of my favorite parts of this game. They explicitly show that Bowser hasn't gotten any smarter since he was a child. Adult Bowser and baby Bowser are equally matched in in terms of intelligence. Anyways, to get down to them, we gotta go through a few levels of the volcano. There's nothing super interesting in this level except for the Thwomp gambling minigame that's a combination of pachinko and slots. Sure, yeah. It's fun enough, and this is the place where you can get that badge that Smash Egg has a rare chance to give you. I didn't bother grinding for it since it's only kinda good, but I'll take any chance I can get to point out how stupid Smash Egg is. There's only a couple enemy types in this area. These Shroobs that are literally just on fire, and a gold variant of the Coopelians from the Toadwood Forest. The flaming Shroobs aren't too hard to dodge and are, of course, weak to ice flowers, so they aren't much of a concern. The gold Coopelians are basically free to fight, but they outspeed me and have a high chance to run away before I even get to attack a single time. There's a second Thwomp minigame you have to play where you float with the baby spin and grab a bunch of gems. It's certainly part of the game. Let's go ahead and jump forward to my favorite boss fight in the game, and what I assume is most people's favorite boss fight in the game, the Bowsers. By the time you reach the bottom of the volcano, Bowser and Baby Bowser have settled their differences and decided to team up. The funniest part about this is that neither of them have managed to make the connection that they're the same person. Bowser and Baby Bowser start the fight piggybacked the same way that the bros do, and you're only able to target Big Bowser when they're like this. This boss barely has any extra health in the NA version, with adult Bowser having 100 extra and Baby Bowser actually having 60 less. I know it seems like I over-exaggerated the North American version being harder in the intro, but literally every boss after this one has a massive health increase, so stay tuned. Big Bowser attacks by stomping the ground to create a shockwave and send rocks at each bro, or by spitting fire at them one at a time. He can laugh for a second to try and fake you out, but it's still not too bad. Baby Bowser also gets an action while piggybacked. He can stomp on Big Bowser to do a different fire breath attack, heal Big Bowser for 100 with a mushroom, or hop off Big Bowser's back and hammer his shell back and forth at you. This shell counter attack ends up being their biggest weakness, since countering it successfully will remove Big Bowser from the fight for a couple turns. This lets you take down Baby Bowser first, preventing him from stalling out the fight by continuing to heal adult Bowser. Baby Bowser's solo attacks are lukewarm at best, since he just spits a single fireball at you that you can either hammer or jump over depending on which variant he uses. An interesting detail in this fight is the fact that adult Bowser takes critical damage from Ice Flower, but Baby Bowser doesn't. I guess he must have developed an allergy as he got older or something. Even though I didn't get any defense debuffs, I had some red peppers to use to buff my own attack. These vanished from the series after this game, but using a single one applies to both active bros and it lasts for a few turns, so they're super good. A few buffed copy flowers is enough to beat Baby Bowser, and that leaves adult Bowser, who isn't very threatening on his own. With his defense debuffed and my attack buffed at the same time, copy flowers and trampolines shred through the rest of his health. I tried to jump on the rocks during one of his counters, and yeah, don't do that, but a couple 1-ups brought it back and I beat Bowser without dying. After both Bowsers are defeated, they get blasted out of the volcano and into the sky. Adult Bowser gets knocked down by a stray Shroob saucer, and the Bowsers have a touching final parting moment. It's kinda wholesome and still funny because Bowser never figured out that he was talking to himself. At the same time, the Shroob Mothership flies in, allowing Baby Bowser to land safely on top of it. The Mothership blasts open the side of the volcano to hit the Hoover Max Extract Pressure Pro Model 60 and retrieve Peach. The bros follow her through the tube to end up on board the Shroob Mothership. The vibe here is pretty neat, but also like, what the hell is going on in the background? There's a bunch of Shroobs sitting in green sludge that are getting sucked on and yanked on for no reason. There's only one type of enemy here, being the Guardian Shroobs, and they attack like basic Shroobs from the beginning of the game, but much faster. The way they do this wave attack and then laser you is actually kind of tricky because you have to interpret how long they wave to tell how long they're gonna wind up the shot. There's only a handful of them on the ship, so it's not a huge concern. The main puzzle here is this light switch puzzle where you have to hit the correct switch on the top screen with the babies so that the bros can see to hit the block on the bottom screen. Nothing truly says evil alien spaceship technology like gigantic light bulbs. Awesome level design, guys. At the end of the ship, we finally find Princess Peach again, but get ambushed by a ton of Shroobs. Peach removes the Shroob mushroom from her face, and oh no, she isn't Peach at all! It's Princess Shroob! Not a super crazy twist or anything, but the fact that her plan was to sneak into the present to take over there as well is a pretty threatening detail. Bowser accidentally saved the present day by kidnapping Princess Shroob and taking her back to the past. We're surrounded AF, but somehow Kylie Koopa managed to disguise herself as a Shroob so she could save us all at the last second. I guess she's a shapeshifter, or she was wearing the gutted husk of a Shroob. Either way, I have a lot of questions. We escape to the tippy top of the ship with Kylie, where she can finally put the giant key to use. As it turns turns out, it was a troll key this entire time, and it drops us out of the ship and into the Mushroom Kingdom below. Kylie hangs on longer than the bros can, and she ends up dropping into Yoshi Village and landing right on Toadbert's stupid head. This should like kill him or at least cause major head trauma, but it actually fixes his amnesia. The bros land in Toad Town, which is the most ransacked area in the entire Mushroom Kingdom. This area has a very foreboding and sad vibe to it, and it's honestly a really underrated iteration of Toad Town. Even if no other places were available in the present, man, Toad Town absolutely should have been. It's actually really surprising that it's not. The first building where you land is a shop that contains the last 2 living people in all of Toad Town. These old grandmas who ask you to spend money at their shop to cheer them up. There is literally nobody left, no reason to keep using currency, and they still make us pay for tools to help us save the world. Old ladies in Mario RPGs are evil. I can't complain too much though, because they sell some of the strongest badges in the entire series. The Risk Badge is kind of the opposite of the notoriously overpowered Mush Badge AA from Superstar Saga. With that one, you get stronger the more mushrooms you have in your inventory, but with the Risk Badge, you get stronger the less mushrooms you have in your inventory. This maxes out at a whopping 3 times attack boost if you're carrying 0 mushrooms. However, all variants of Mushroom, Mushroom Drop, and 1-Up all count against this. Having 25 total mushrooms or more will negate the damage buff entirely, so with hard mode one-tapping us most of the time anyways, it's best to sell all normal mushrooms and only carry a handful of 1-Ups. Another super nice property this badge has is that the buff will apply to all bros during bros attacks as long as the person selecting the attack is wearing one. This means the adults can wear Risk Badges and the babies will still benefit during copy flowers and trampolines and such, while leaving the babies open for the handful of badges that actually apply while they're piggybacked. My love for glass cannon risk versus reward strats is so strong that I instantly committed to never unequipping this for the rest of the run. However, to counter this, I finally bought some gear that provides defense. The Star Trousers, also sold at the grandma shop, provide just 5 less attack than the muscle slacks from earlier while providing the best defense buff of anything we've seen so far. However, slightly later in the town, I picked up the Paraslacks, which provide no attack boost but an even higher defense boost and a fucking insanely massive speed increase. Luigi can now outspeed most enemies in the game. I kept the glass cannon armor on the babies because buff babies, but also because their defense doesn't really matter as long as the adults are alive. We can also get the final 2 bros attacks in the game now, the red shell and the mix flower. The red shell is very similar to the green shell, but with higher damage and the ability to go on infinitely if you time things well enough. Yes, there are 4 different infinite bros attacks in Partners in Time. The mix flower, while not infinite in the same way, is an incredibly solid attack and probably my favorite variant of the fire flower in any Mario and Luigi game. All 4 bros take turns shooting fireballs up into one big fireball in the sky, and once it descends, it will deal massive damage to all enemies. The main enemies in Toad Town are these robotic shroobs called Shroids, and all of their attacks are very similar to old Mario Party minigames, which I think is super cool. They have this move where they trap you in a D20 from the hit tabletop, and you have to mash jump to break out so you can jump over the laser that follows. The most fun attack they have is definitely this one where the Shroid holds up a flag for one or both bros. You have to jump for whichever flag is shown, otherwise he'll damage you. There's also an enemy here called the Love Bubble, which is a weird Paragoomba-esque thing. I didn't fight too many of them, but they're pretty weak to dying and don't have crazy attacks. I avoided these skeleton pokey enemies entirely because they're mostly fought in baby-only zones, and we all remember how that goes. Toad Town once again uses the concept of splitting the pairs up so they can activate linked pairs of blocks, but they don't do anything crazy with the level design other than making you walk a little bit and fight enemies. The Toad Town exploration is pretty short-lived because we're immediately thrusted into Star Hill by the Cobalt Star, which is bugging out and trying to get us to head to the top. This area seems to refer back to the Star Hill location in Super Mario RPG, and it's always cool when Nintendo actually acknowledges that game. If you thought Toad Town was short, then Star Hill is basically microscopic. In fairness, I did skip all but one normal enemy here because I didn't really need the XP. And at the top we reach a boss fight where the North American health differences really start to become noticeable. Commander Shroob gets 1600 health in this version of the game, while he only gets 900 in the Japanese and European versions. So, with the hard mode patch, this guy gets 2400 health and has a phase where you fight some Shroobs holding a giant bomb that protects him and stalls the fight out even longer. This fight really takes a lot of flack from fans of the series for being ridiculously long, but it's not hard if you're actually prepared and know what strategies to use, aka just spam copy flower till you win. During the initial phase, you need to defeat the back 2 support Shroobs first. This will cause the front one to get squished, and the bomb will roll off screen and bring Commander Shroob into play. His main attack is to throw his subordinates at you, a subtle reference to how war works in real life. This attack goes on for a while, but with my fancy new pants, I can actually survive multiple hits from him. Not that I even needed more defense, since he only managed to hit me twice while I managed to defeat him in just 2 cycles of the Shroob bomb. That makes him basically the fastest boss fight of the run so far besides the tutorials. I wasn't expecting this given how many people told me this boss traumatized them when they were kids and, you know, the whole hard mode thing. After defeating Commander Shroob, we reach the summit of Star Hill where the Cobalt Star conjures a Star Spirit form and tells us to gather the rest of the shards. We still only have 3 out of 6 by the way, so that's only half of the shards. A naive player might think this means we're about halfway through the game, and the runtime on the timer certainly looks that way, except this game is pretty short, so let me just tell you we are well over halfway. Next, we need to venture into the Star Shrine where there is apparently another Cobalt Shard. To enter the Star Shrine, we need to prove to this giant DORE that we're worthy or something. The Star Door says that Mario and the babies are pure of heart, but that Luigi has a certain darkness to him. The Star Door actually bullies the hell out of Luigi here in a way that makes you think it has to be connected to Starlo and the Star Sprites in the next game somehow. We're told that we can either leave Luigi behind or find the Aurora block to prove his worthiness. To make a long story short, we get that Aurora block and the Star Door still tells Luigi that he's worthless and shameful and such, until eventually it caves and says, "Ha ha, I was just joshing you, bro, don't you know how to take a joke?" Yup, it was all just an elaborate test. Inside the Star Shrine, we have some pretty decent puzzles and a couple new enemies. There's some stronger recolors of the Thwack from earlier and the Piranha Planet, which is just a lovely one for all of our tripophobic friends. The normal enemies here are actually pretty strong, especially compared to Commander Shroob, who was a total bozo, so I endeavored to avoid as many of them as I could. Being at a single death this far into the run is definitely a record for my Mario and Luigi hard mode runs so far. Only about halfway into the shrine, we find the next Cobalt Star Shard, bringing us up to 4 out of 6. Immediately after we snag it, Toadbert and Kylie completely invalidate the entire journey we just had through Toad Town, Star Hill, and the Star Shrine. They literally use a Lakitu taxi and catch up to us without having to fight anything or prove their worth to any stupid doors. Toadbert tells us that he apparently had the 5th Cobalt Star Shard the entire time, but he freaks out when we tell him that we're trying to collect all the shards. He runs away in a panic because nobody is allowed to talk concisely enough to get their point across in this game, and Kylie chases after him. I made my way through a bunch of the shrine, but along the way, the game gave me a bunch of mushrooms in item blocks. This lowers my damage buff from the risk badge pretty drastically, but backtracking out of here would involve walking all the way back to Toad Town, so I didn't want to have to sell them. I had the bright idea of taking damage intentionally against normal enemies so I could waste my mushrooms before going into the next boss. You can probably imagine where this is going.
Fucking damn it. I forgot he was gonna get another attack because only Luigi has the high speed, not baby Luigi. Okay, well, we finally get to update the death counter.
Give it up for death number 2, baby! After reloading my save, I decided to just go straight into the boss itself since I'd probably take some damage while relearning its attacks anyway. We catch up to Toadbert and Kylie, except somebody bodied them, and Toadbert begs us to come closer and look at his stupid sketch from earlier. He apparently pulled a Todd Rogers on it, so he asks us to wipe the coffee stains off. By the way, this is the one and only use of the DS touchscreen in this whole game. Underneath the smudge, there's a second Princess Shroob? Toadbert starts to explain it, but that would be too easy, so out of nowhere, a big red guy blasts through the wall and turns Toadbert and Kylie into Shroob mushrooms. This is the Elder Shrooboid, and he's a very strong boss. Across his 2 phases, he has a total of 2,950 HP in the North American version compared to just 1,900 in the other releases. That's basically an entire 3rd phase worth of extra health. And yes, that means he has over 4,000 HP in hard mode. He starts out standing because I don't really know what else he would do, and his sick-ass haircut makes him count as a spiky enemy, so he's immune to all of our best infinite attacks for now. That means the best first attack is the Ice Flower because it's almost always the best first attack. He takes critical damage from it, and debuffing his stats is always a good thing. For actually damaging him, red shells are the best option while he's up. He has a pretty wide variety of attacks. He can shoot fireballs fireballs at you that you have to jump over, put you into the D20 dimension again and attempts to hit you with a wrecking ball, and he has this attack where he walks up to you and spins at you. This attack is bullshit. You have to hammer him in quick succession 3 to 5 times, and given the fact that Luigi picks up the hammer slower for the counter than Mario does, Luigi basically needs to be frame perfect to avoid it. I mean, seriously, just look at this. Yeah, like, how was I supposed to get 5 hits there even if I was optimal? I was told that in phase 2, he needs to be hit 6 or more times, which is actually impossible. Like, seriously, you cannot swing the hammer fast enough to avoid that. So, stay tuned for the second phase, I guess. Luckily, my armor is good enough to survive a single hit from this attack, so it actually gives me opportunities to waste mushrooms and raise my attack if I mess it up. He has one other attack in the first phase. He can throw a spike ball that circles around you a few times before eventually hitting one of the bros, but hammering it away will cause the Elder Shrooboid to get depressed and lie face down on the floor. This lowers his defense a ton and allows you to hit him with some copy flower action. With his defense lowered by ice flower, my attack buffed with red peppers, and honestly still way too many mushrooms in my inventory, I was able to deal over 800 damage in a single copy flower. That's actually really good for hard mode.
And it starts to get squishy, and then, haha, JK, he's big now.
In this phase, he spawns a Shroob saucer out of his mouth that begins a countdown on the top screen, exactly the same way the saucer way back in that beginning Shroob fight did. When the countdown reaches 0, it does indeed instantly kill you. Things aren't as hopeless as they were back then, however, since Elder Shrooboid's spike ball attack can be knocked into the saucer up top, resetting the countdown. The way this works is pretty cool. The saucer can hover over the left or right of the battlefield, and you need to counter with a specific bro depending on which side it's on. Mario will hit the spike ball up right, while Luigi will hit it straight up. This apparently works differently in other versions of the game, where the saucer just sits in place and can be countered by either bro. Countering the spike ball attack will also still inflict depression on the Elder Shrooboid, so we're able to attack his back with our strongest moves once again. My success in this phase was dependent on how many times he decided to use the unblockable spin attack, and fortunately he only used it once. I gotta say, this fight was once again much easier than I was expecting. This one is super notorious for being very grindy and very difficult, but even with 50% higher defense and HP, it only took me 15 minutes. His attacks, other than the bullshit one, aren't very hard to dodge, and your bro's item options are amazing at this point. My damage was certainly increased by the risk badge, which I'm sure not every player has used before, but due to how many mushrooms I had, the buff didn't even bring me close to normal vanilla damage. I didn't even play particularly well, and we were just fine. The whole babies being piggybacked onto the adults thing is just so overpowered because you basically get a free pass to survive as long as you have 1-ups. Defeating the Elder Shrooboid recovers the Cobalt Star Shard that Toadbert had, putting us up to 5 out of 6. This is apparently enough to break into Shroob Castle, where Princess Shroob is holding the final centerpiece for the Cobalt Star. So yeah, we went from having only half of these things an hour ago to basically being done collecting them. Weird pacing, but surely the Mario and Luigi series will learn from these pacing issues and never make any pacing related mistakes ever again. And so we return to EGAD, who doesn't really have any useful insight to offer about the finale of the game. He just says, oh yeah, I guess you gotta go to the Shroob Castle now, GLHF. My favorite part of this cutscene is actually this random toad here acting like he's important. The end's in sight, guys. We'll think good thoughts until you're all safely back here. This toad is too involved in this conversation. In preparation for entering Shroob Castle, I sold everything but a few of my 1-ups so I'd have a good enough damage output for grinding some XP for the last bosses. And so, let's blast down this gate with our mostly complete Cobalt Star. A funny thing about this gate, by the way, is that you can access this time hole after you beat Yoshi's Island, meaning that for most of the game, all you can do is come and stare at the locked gate. However, by standing in this spot with Mario, using Bros Ball, and rolling upwards, you can clip right through the gate. Yup, this is how speedrunners skip most of the game, but it's also so easy that somebody could do it on accident. There's a pretty big variety of enemies in Shroob Castle, ranging from a Shroobified version of the Tanuki Goombas from earlier, to a recolor of the Love Bubbles from the area we were just in, to these super cool Shroob Rexes, which are Shroob versions of the Rex enemy from Super Mario World, and these Snooze Orbs that I hate. The reason I hate them is that their tell for their laser attacks involves paying attention to the direction their particles move when charging up, which is really subtle, and the lasers one-tap me even with my good armor. I steered clear of those guys, but the rest of them could be taken out in a single mix flower, so I stocked up and spammed those a bunch to make the grinding process quick and easy. On the main floor floor of the castle, you have to split up the bros and babies for some linked switches again, and I was very careful to avoid as many battles as I could during this. Upstairs, you can find one of my favorite Shroob enemies in the game, Shroobsworth. He's a Toadsworth Shroob, and he has a little Shroob jockey on his back. Don't do a chicken jockey edit, don't do a chicken jockey edit, don't do it.
They want me to fight the Shroob?
Shroob jockey! When you take out Shroobsworth himself, the jockey gets to be phase 2, and for some reason he's called an intern Shroob. I don't think I ever let a single Shroobsworth live long enough to attack me, but the intern Shroob just shoots at you like any other standard Shroob in the game. This final dungeon is pretty good, but not incredibly memorable. After you make your way to the top of the castle, you can enter Princess Shroob's base and find a big old monitor displaying Princess Peach. Somehow this is a Skype call, which is the period correct reference for this game, and Peach is able to see us, or at least hear us. There's a blue pipe in the statue that presumably leads to the top where Peach is, but the game pops its padding ult and sends you into a past version of the castle sewers with this giant chain chomp. You just have to fight a few enemies, clear some pretty similar puzzles to previous levels, and then there's a kind of non-puzzle where the chain chomp appears in pipes across the top screen and you have to aim at it by hitting these blocks. There's no time limit, no way for you to take damage, it is literally just a try it until you figure it out moment with no stakes. This sewer part is such an unnecessary part of the final dungeon, it totally kills the flow and doesn't offer a cool boss fight against this chain chomp or anything like that. Worst of all, while we're down here, we ended up meeting Princess Broob. I hate this thing and I never want to look at it again. On a much nicer note, we can find a pair of rocket jeans down here, which is the best gear for the babies in the entire game. They provide a higher attack buff than the glass cannon armor we've been wearing since the Gritzy Caves, and also happen to give the babies the highest defense increase out of every armor piece. The best part though, we can get another pair on the main floor of Shroob Castle so both babies can have one. The adult's best armor is a very rare drop from Shroobsworth, and I didn't want to deal with farming for it, so I simply kept my gear from Toad Town earlier. Completing the sewers gave us the rest of the access to the castle that we needed to activate the final set of lasers on the main floor, and this pretty much paves the way to the end. We can get to the other side of the statue and climb up to Princess Shroob's entrance, but make sure you don't miss this platform with like a million free bros items right outside. I realized right as I got here that I had a bunch of mushrooms from hitting random question blocks in Shroob Castle, so I decided to turn around real quick and go all the way back to Peach's castle to sell my extras. I wanted to go into the final bosses with just 8 1-up supers and no other heals. This means I could have bros die 8 times before being out of luck, and my damage would start out good and get even better as I used them up. And now let's enter the final encounters.
There's gonna be mushrooms in this block, aren't there? God damn it. 4 of them actually sucks. Fuck you. I shouldn't have hit it. There can't be mushrooms on this side also though. God damn it.
That many mushrooms basically removes our risk badge buff altogether, so I had to turn around and go back to Peach's castle again to remove these from my inventory. My chat informed me that the rest of the question blocks in the statue were just more mushrooms, so I made sure to save my game before checking, and yep, just more mushrooms. I reset and skipped all of these and headed up to the finale. Peach is up here and is about to spill the beans on the Cobalt Star, but then uh-oh, the Shroob Mothership shows up and starts lasering the statue before Peach can get the words out. Fortunately, we're able to walk up into Princess Shroob's forehead and use it as a ship to fight back against the Mothership. There was actually a minigame where we controlled the Mothership and destroyed some Shroob saucers earlier, but I skipped over it because it's just a tutorial for this part anyways. You have to shoot Shroob saucers back into the Mothership, but they'll fly towards you and take away one of your lives if they run into you. The controls for this are super weird. You can select 3 height movements with the babies and Luigi and fire with Mario, and it's honestly one of the harder parts in the game. If you lose this, you do actually get a game over, by the way.
That doesn't hit it, does it? No, it doesn't. Shit. Way to fix this is to move forwards in time. Hold on, can they just miss me? Oh, they can just miss me. I don't have to hit them. Oh, that doesn't come back down? Oh no, they're gonna run into me. No. That doesn't hit it either. Come on. I'm so bad at this. Kinda not the most fun minigame, honestly. There's a hit. Okay. There's another hit. Oh yeah, all the other ones just despawn when you get a hit, so you kind of just need to hit it. Dude, it's just flying around farming aura. Nice. No, that doesn't count. I'm gonna get hit off that. Fuck you. Get destroyed. No deaths on this minigame. I think that would have counted as a death if I lost there.
I think that was the closest I've gotten to losing a boss fight so far, like genuinely. This part really is pretty tough. After shooting down the mothership, we can return to Peach, who doesn't even try to bring up the thing she was going to say about the Cobalt Star. And then Princess Shroob emerges from the crashed mothership and she's done fucking around. She's pissed.
Okay, so she starts with a shield that just requires a certain amount of hits to destroy, and also her music is kind of cracked. 14 hits to destroy the shield. So we'll use copy flowers for that. We have so many copy flowers. You can use any of the multi-hits though. Okay, let's knock this out. If we're solid on the fact that we can't debuff her, I should just go straight for the copy flower and just go straight for the damage here. Wait, why is Mario doing more damage than the babies again? Oh, maybe because Mario got an extra level up. I think the babies are one level lower than the adults, which considering that they're babies, that's actually pretty good, I would say. Yeah, get ready to see a lot of copy flower gameplay. Fuck. Oh yeah, I should use my peppers. You're right. I don't think there's any reason to not jump with both bros here, right? Okay, no, it gets fast. Shit. Honestly, it probably wouldn't have even gotten that fast. I did get hit. That's okay. I survived it. Let's use the red peppers. Okay, counter. 47 counter damage is actually not bad. I've talked a lot of shit about counter damage in this game. Damn it. It's just the button timings, not the reaction time. But 883 is pretty good. Copy flower chews through so much of her health. No. Okay, that time it was just reaction time. 793. Oh yeah, she's enraged now. I forgot she has an enraged phase. Damn, she moves like fast, right? Shit. Wait, that doesn't even kill me? Wait, I alternated it. Shit. Jumped too early. Okay, we're gonna need to use 2 of our mushrooms. Hey, we get stronger for that at least. We get a little stronger, but we lose 2 turns to that. Yeah, that was very bad execution there. Fuck. I keep jumping kind of early. Okay. Okay, good. I'm just aura farming. This doesn't do anything extra to do any more hits now. Okay, yeah, that wasn't even aura because it was kind of bad. No way this gets fast enough that I don't have to just jump with both of them. You don't jump on the star, do you? I can't remember. I feel like jumping on the star just damages you and you just need to last. You have to jump on the star. There we go. Easy enough attack that I was able to look at chat during it. Fuck. We're already using 3 1-up supers for this phase. That's pretty bad. Fuck. Yeah, you just want to insta-counter that one. She attacks so many times now. Shit, that was awful. So bad at the video game. You already used half of my 1-ups during this fight. She only has 177 HP left. That sounds about right. I know she's low. So this attack should end early. Yep. 119. You probably missed a counter or 2, but yeah, there we go. Okay, honestly, not that hard of a fight.
After defeating Princess Shroob, Peach reveals to us that she's actually the one holding the final Cobalt Star Shard. She's super nonchalant and passive about this and wastes as much time as possible showing you the shard before starting to explain why you shouldn't complete the Cobalt Star. And then Baby Bowser, who's been hiding in the mothership playing the long game, jumps down, steals the shard, and finally completes the Cobalt Star. The star freaks out, turns Baby Bowser into a Shroob mushroom, and then the Cobalt Star begins to morph. Now that she's made absolutely absolutely certain it's too late, Peach tells us all about the Cobalt Star. Apparently, when she first arrived in the past, she was attacked by 2 Princess Shroobs. Peach used the Cobalt Star to trap one of the princesses, but was kidnapped by the other. This is what Toadbert was trying to tell us earlier and what his drawing depicted. Overall, I really like this twist. The foreshadows to this are very obvious in hindsight, but if you're not expecting the game's MacGuffin to backstab you, it is genuinely surprising. My main issues with this game's plot definitely stem from how often they use silly contrivances to continue the story instead of like actual believable reasoning and character moments. It makes the game surprisingly funny for how dark its villains and settings are, but I don't know if that was the right direction to take what could have been a more serious and engaging story. And so we get to battle Elder Princess Shroob.
Okay, so this is the phase we can debuff. No, this phase should not be as bad. Okay, got a POW debuff and a defense debuff. That's all we really need. 147. Let's go ahead and red pepper buff. We got to get in it for the long haul here. Send the star up there to knock out the UFOs, like so. How did that not hit the other one? That was a scam. How much damage do we do with her defense down and my attack up? Oh, a lot more than we were doing last time. I also have less 1-ups now, so my attack is slightly higher because of that. Damn it. Yeah, 1300's pretty good. Yeah, we just run that back again. Okay, another 1200. Okay, more UFOs. Do I get another star? Yeah, I do. I'm so stupid. I love this animation where she holds her hand out all stupid. Okay, so she has a heal, right? Does that buff her or just heal? 120 is not a very big heal. Okay, we jump on the chomp. I don't know if the buffs last another round or not. If they do, I think I finish her next turn, which is crazy. What? I pressed the button there, you shithead. How was that so bad? Oh yeah, this attack. Wait, the counter damage is insane though? That just negated most of her heals. There we go. All right, final phase already. Yeah, banger alert, true. Okay, flames are Mario, Shocky's Luigi. I remember that. Okay.
Elder Princess Shroob has the better final boss theme than Dark Star. Also, she is hot. I'd take her out on a date, NGL.
I never keep saying that about the Shroob Princess. This attack is so hard to dodge. I know that one's everyone's most hated attack that she does. Fuck. Okay. We have 4 1-ups left. Yeah, that's like the hardest version of that type of attack in the series. You have to like swap to jumping with both bros at the same time at some point, I think. Okay, that was kind of bad. Fuck. I think it kind of is a Superstar Saga reference. Okay, the leg still has like 300 left almost. That's right, you can jump on these fart clouds for some reason. Okay, there's only 2 now. Okay, that's easy baby mode. I think we just cannonball her the foot here. I like that it's called the foot. Honestly, I think I copy flower to make like absolute certain I kill it, right? I'm just gonna copy flower. Oh yeah, now we can get these single damages. Yeah, this is gonna be important. Fuck. 31 big ones, yeah. I think I should use red peppers. No, I think I just like cannonball her or copy the crown. Probably copy because it should translate over. Yeah, I'm gonna pepper myself. I think I copy flower because the crown should die mid-attack and then I can transfer a damage over to the main target. That might be how it works, not certain. Oh no, the appendages go back, so we do want to mix flower again. Well, I literally jumped. How many 1-up supers are we at? Only 2 left. Okay. Kills crown, even with hard mode buff, yes. Okay, this attack, how much counter damage do we get here now? So stupid. Can't believe I'm missing easy ass timings. Okay. That is 800 damage. Yeah, we're gonna need a lot of those to kill her. That was awful. That was so bad. Only 600. Fuck. Okay, I got my input fucking destroyed on Luigi there, I swear. Foot is back. Oh no. I hate this version. At least with 2, it seems a little more possible. It's like nearly impossible with 3, I swear. Okay, Mix Flower again. This will actually damage the head at least, because the crown is still deactivated. But if we damage the appendages, she loses some turns, so it's worth. It goes forever. Never stop. I know chat's being like, holy shit, it's taking so long, but I can't look away. Shit. Yeah, just end it. That didn't even do that much more damage. Did I just lucky the head, though? Did that do 800 to her head? Oh, that was awful. Wow. How much damage? Less damage does this do? It did the same amount. Why? Yeah, I don't even think this matters. 409. 773, that sucks. That lucky Mix Flower was insane. Awful at the game. The Luigi pulling out his hammer slower is so fucking bad. God. Uh-oh. What is that? Okay, I don't even remember how the fuck to deal with that attack, not gonna lie. I don't even know what I was supposed to do there. Okay, last 1-up super. God, Luigi pulls out his hammer so slowly. Jumped early. Wow. Never punished. No, not the triple variant. That's so difficult to do without getting hit. Okay, I get a turn again. The head is vulnerable. $400 damage. Wait, that's it? Wait, she's dead? I didn't realize she was that low. Okay, there we go. We had just enough 1-ups for it. Final boss without even getting a death, man? I thought this was supposed to be hard mode. Elder Princess Shroob is honestly a fantastic boss fight, and I'd say it's probably the second hardest final boss in the series, right behind Dreamy Bowser. The fact that you have to fight 3 Princess Shroob phases back to back with no saves amps it up a lot, but a lot of the dodges aren't all that hard, and you're definitely tanky enough to survive a lot of hits given the fact that I was able to survive multiple hits even in hard mode. Even with the princesses defeated, the team still needs to figure out how to beat the rest of the Shroobs and restore the kingdom. While they ponder, baby Luigi starts crying while sitting on the Shroobified baby Bowser mushroom, and yeah, baby tears are apparently the Shroob's weakness. Egad wastes no time making millions of babies cry to fill up his Hydro Gush, and he's able to use it to douse the entire past and de-Shroobify everything. This ending is pretty funny and is still totally a paradox. My favorite part though is that they forgot to end Stuffwell's talking animation during this cutscene. He's stuff-welling it. So yeah, the death count is sitting at just 2, and I suppose we can lock that in because we already beat...
Oh, and because apparently the developers just had to make Bowser the final boss, there's actually a bonus boss fight at the end. Bowser is guided by the spirit of Elder Princess Shroob, and he breaks every convention of turn-based JRPGs by not giving you a turn. He's one of the first villains to ever learn this in a turn-based game. What a goat. The way you defeat this boss is by dodging all of his attacks, which he'll deflect up at Elder Princess Shroob's spirit. And honestly, I'm not even gonna pretend that this is hard. There's like no reason to die to Shrowser. Yes, his name is fucking Shrowser. This fight existing is so stupid, so you know what? Let's just pretend it doesn't. So yeah, the final death count for Partners in Time hard mode was just 2 deaths, and they were both against normal enemies and were very avoidable. I was expecting way more given how much people talk about how hard this game is online, especially compared to Inside Story. The fact that the babies can revive the adults pretty much scot-free in most scenarios makes it hard to game over as long as you don't run out of 1-ups. Some of you might be like, okay, well duh, you just bought a bunch of 1-ups so it made the game really easy, but actually that's not even the case. I pretty much exclusively spent my money on bros items and gear and just scavenged all of the healing items in the overworld. Not only is Partners in Time really generous with bros items, but also regular items. While I was disappointed by the lack of difficulty, I still had a great time revisiting this game. It's very easy to nitpick this one since honestly it's a little rough around the edges, but it still has a lot of charm, some interesting lore with the Shroobs, very entertaining and very goofy cutscenes, and playing as the babies is pretty neat. The time travel idea was a huge scope for this small little handheld RPG, and I think the idea was too ambitious compared to what they were able to execute. This game feels like it could have used some extra time in the oven, and I'd say Alpha Dream went on to prove what they were truly capable of with Bowser's Inside Story. The polish in that game is unreal compared to Partners in Time. Still though, this game doesn't deserve to be seen as the black sheep of the Mario and Luigi series, but rather part of its history. It definitely could have used a remake more than either of the 2 games that did end up receiving one, but I think that's out of the question permanently as far as official Nintendo stuff goes. I say that because there is a fan project in the works to remake Partners in Time from the ground up, but it's still in pretty early stages and it's hard telling what it's truly gonna look like at this point. For now, I think I'm out of things to say about the silly little DS game that came out when I was 3 years old, so let's go ahead and end this. I'll be tackling Superstar Saga really soon, and I'm definitely gonna look into doing something harder than what I did with Partners in Time because this run was simply too easy. Anyways, huge shoutouts to all my Bringle members for supporting this channel and being goated in general. I love having a platform to talk about my favorite games, and it's been super fun to expand my horizons to the entire Mario RPG catalog. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now. See you next time. Take care.